What happens if you take the best parts of an old fashioned and mix it with the best parts of a whiskey highball? Meet the Vintage Lift, an original cocktail of mine that blends two perfect classic cocktails into something that is clean and elegant like an old fashioned, but cool and crushable like a highball. Let's get started. Now, I love old fashions and I love highballs, but I think they're meant for different occasions. I think the old fashioned is something that is great as a sipper, maybe as a nightcap, and I think highballs are great to test out a new whiskey, to pair with food, especially in a Japanese setting. That's why the Japanese highball is such a classic and such a famous cocktail in Japan. I also already made videos on both of these cocktails. I made a video on the old fashioned and I made a video on the Japanese whiskey highball. And they're probably two of my favorite cocktails and two drinks that I drink fairly often. I love the old-fashioned spice, I love the lemon oils, I love the richness from the whiskey and a little bit of sweetness, but sometimes you want something taller, colder, and a little lower octane for a summer day or for game day. And I also love whiskey highballs, but sometimes I want something a little richer, sweeter, and with a little more spice, which led me to the creation of this cocktail. But first, let me tell you the story of actually how I came up with this. One day I made an old-fashioned for my girlfriend. She ended up not being able to drink it all and asked me to finish it for her. However, I was actually about to make a highball for myself using some leftover club soda that I had in the fridge that I had to use before it fizzled out. So I just thought, what if I just combine the two? I've never heard of anyone doing that. I'm sure maybe someone's done it in the past, but I've looked it up and I can't really find any cocktail that has combined an old fashioned and a highball. So I decided to make it on my own and it turned out to be pretty good. So I want to share it with you guys today. And when you think about it, it seems really easy. It's literally just combining an old fashioned and a highball. What's so genius about it? Basically what this cocktail is just using the classic Japanese whiskey cocktail structure of whiskey, club soda, and a little bit of lemon, and using the classic old fashioned structure of spirit, sugars, and bitters. I created something that keeps the old-fashioned flavor DNA, but with the club soda adds a much lighter texture and a lower ABV that is maybe a little easier to drink, allowing for a more refreshing taste on the classic sipping cocktail, while adding a richer and sweeter taste to the classic fizzy cocktail. So let's get into the ingredients of this drink and how to make it. First up, as always, is the spirit that we're using. Obviously, we are using whiskey. When it comes to whiskey for this drink, I recommend three options. You can use any whiskey that you want, but the ones that I recommend are either a rye whiskey for a more spicier and drier finish. You can use bourbon whiskey, as it gives you more of a rounder and sweeter finish, or you could go more in line with the Japanese highball and go with Japanese whiskey for maybe a more elegant flavor with some tea, vanilla, and smoky notes. But today I am using something that fits really well within the theme of this video. Today I am using a whiskey called Legend. Legend is a collaboration from the head master distiller of Jim Beam Distillery, Fred No, and the head master distiller of the Suntory Distillery, Fukuyo Shinji. And they came together to create a really nice whiskey that kind of combines the richness and the bold flavors of a Kentucky bourbon whiskey with the art of Japanese whiskey blending that creates some of the nicest whiskeys in the world, especially with Japanese highballs. As always, you can use whatever whiskey that you want, but today we are using this one. Next is simple syrup. Simple syrup is basically just sugar water. This is a 1-to-1 simple syrup. 1 cup water, 1 cup sugar, dissolved in the pan over some heat, put into a jar. You can use store-bought if you want, doesn't matter, but definitely some simple syrup for sweetness. And then, of course, bitters. For those who don't know what bitters are, that I explained in my last video, they are basically just flavor extracts from spices, herbs, botanicals mixed with alcohol, and a few drops goes a long way. And it's all it takes to kind of take a sweet or a dry cocktail and spice it up a little bit. You can use other kinds of bitters such as Peychaud's, orange, there's a bunch of bitters out there, but today we're using the original Angostura. And to make the highball version of this, we're going to need club soda. I'm using Topo Chico today. You want something very cold and you want something very bubbly. This is the bubbliest I can find in my area, so we're using Topo Chico. Now, garnish is definitely necessary for this cocktail, just like you would with an old fashioned or a highball. A lot of people will use orange or lemon or cherry, but today we're kind of mixing highball and old fashioned garnishes. We are going to express lemon peel over the top. And we are also going to drop a lemon wedge as well into the cocktail. And then we are also going to finish with a maraschino cherry on top to kind of combine old fashioned and highball garnishes all into one perfect mixture. So let's build this cocktail. First thing you're going to need is your chilled highball glass and some ice. All right, we have our chilled highball glass filled with ice. You can use whatever ice you want. I am using clear ice cubes. You can also use a long clear ice sphere if you want. That would work well in this cocktail as well, but I'm just going with some classic cubes. Now the first step to build the cocktail is we are going to do 4 dashes of our Angostura bitters. Comes out quickly, so be careful. 1, 2, 3, 4. We are then going to do 1 bar spoon of our simple syrup. Obviously, you can customize the amount of sweetness you want in this drink. However, I recommend going a little bit lighter on the sweetness since it's going to be carried by that soda water. And then next, we're going to do a full 2 ounces of whiskey. Okay. All right, next we are going to stir it around, just like you would with an old fashioned. Stir it around, dilute it a little bit, and let it get a little colder. Because we want that whiskey to be nice and cold before the carbonation hits it. Not too much, just a little bit. Now I'm going to top it with a little more ice right now. All right, we topped it nice full with ice. And now we're going to pour in the club soda. Now, as I pointed out in the highball video, we are going to pour it off the ice down so that it gets inside the whiskey here, so it fully covers the whole drink, like so. About 3 to 5 ounces, whatever gets you to the top there. And then this is really important. We're just going to do about 1.5 stirs. So 1, there you go, and then lift up. Beautiful. All right, and then we're going to add our garnishes. I am first going to drop the lemon peel in, if it'll fit. I've got a lot of ice in there. There we go. Then we're going to express the lemon oils over the top, like so. Take the outside here and squeeze it over the top like that. It's going to hit you with a lot of lemon on those first few sips. All right, and then we're going to put this off to the side. We're not going to put it in since we already have a lemon in there. And then lastly, we're going to add 1 maraschino cherry. I prefer these Luxardo ones. These things are just really good. I'm gonna just put it right on top there. And that'll sink into the cocktail soon. I give you the Vintage Lift. Cheers. Well, it's really good. Obviously, you get a lot of the lemon notes. As soon as you put your mouth up to the glass, you get tons of lemon. And also that cherry on top actually gives you a lot of that cherry as well. But then once you get that sip, you get a mouth bursting full of flavors, bursting full of bubbles, and then a lot of spiciness from the bitters. Just a little bit of sweetness. That amount of simple syrup is perfect for me, at least. I don't like my cocktails too sweet. I was actually amazed when I found out, like, I couldn't find anything on the internet for this. I don't think that this is something I just came up with. I'm sure somebody's done it at some point. But it's something so simple, yet looks amazing, tastes amazing, takes 2 cocktails that are beloved by many and just combines it into something really delicious. Obviously, a lot of the flavor is going to depend on the whiskey that you use. This whiskey has been aged in bourbon and wine and sherry casks. It's a little bit more sweeter than if you were to use like a Scotch or a Japanese whiskey or a rye whiskey. But I think it really gives just a very nice roundness to the drink. I don't really know how else to describe it. Just something like very full-bodied, but also something really refreshing at the same time. And it tastes exactly like what it sounds like. It tastes like an old-fashioned with carbonation. It tastes like a highball with bitters and simple syrup. And it's something that's pretty easy to make. And it's something I want to express in my channel is home bartending and building up your skill set as a home bartender to be able to make various different drinks. In my first video, we just did a highball, something that's pretty easy, but something you need to master if you want to know how to make good balanced drinks. And then in my old-fashioned video, we went into kind of a different direction with a sipping cocktail that is probably one of, if not the most popular cocktail in the world, the old-fashioned. Maybe the margarita is number 1, maybe the old-fashioned comes number 2. But knowing how to master kind of the basic cocktails and then using those templates, using those techniques, and kind of combining it to make your own creation. I am not a professional bartender. I've never worked as a bartender. I've only just gotten to making drinks a few years ago. But all I did was just kind of make the drinks that I like drinking enough times and understanding the templates of a lot of the cocktails that I like to realize, oh, I can kind of go off and make my own creations like this, which is something that doesn't feel original, but it's something so simple but yet not done a lot. I've never seen anything like this on a menu. Should it be? I don't know. That's up to you. Definitely try it out for yourself. I think it's delicious. Even my girlfriend, who is not a huge fan of whiskey cocktails, really likes this. So if you're someone who maybe doesn't like an old-fashioned or a highball, wants something a little richer, a little smoother, a little sweeter, maybe try this out. Also, it's very low ABV since it is a longer cocktail. So like I said, it's like a highball, but a little richer and sweeter. So if you're someone who doesn't like whiskey a lot, I recommend trying out this cocktail. Let me know what you think in the comments below. If this is something you want to try out, let me know if you tried it and if you liked it. Let me know what whiskey you prefer with it too, because I'm a little torn on if you would rather something smokier or something sweeter, or maybe like a rye whiskey is also really good in it as well. But try the Vintage Lift out for yourself, and thanks for watching. See you later.